vicious swears.
Hello and welcome to VR Reviews. Today we'll be reviewing the Bullethead 112 scale V Mask. So yes, here we have V Mask, which is V from V for Vendetta, but they gave him a weird name because I'm pretty sure these figures are not officially licensed. And a 112 scale figure of V is something that I've wanted for a long time. Pretty much the only other thing you could get was the old NECA figure of V, which is basically just a plastic statue. And this is better than that. Considerably better than that. But it is not a great figure, so I'd probably only recommend picking it up if you are like a really big fan of V for Vendetta and feel like you just have to have a V figure. Which I do, but not everyone is going to feel that way. Starting off with a quick size comparison, of course here we have V. Here's our standard Marvel Legends 6-inch Cosmic Armor Iron Man and 3 3/4-inch Marvel Universe Wolverine. V is pretty much almost exactly Marvel Legends American 6-inch scale figure kind of height. He's a bit thinner, he doesn't have as much bulk as an American 6-inch scale figure usually has, but he is almost the exact same height, so he should fit in with other figures of that nature. And of course is much bigger than a 3 3/4-inch figure. Now let's get everything else out of here and just look at V. Moving on to our 360 spin, as you would expect, V is wearing pretty much entirely black. The bulk of his outfit is cloth, his tunic is just a big black piece. It's fitted fairly well, it's not too baggy. The only part of it that I think looks bad is the area up around the collar and the neck, but otherwise it looks perfectly fine. His pants are also cloth and fairly well fitted. He's got his little belt with all of the knife holes on it and a little buckle in the front. Then his boots and gloves are plastic, and both look perfectly fine. It's not a massively complicated outfit, and I think it's done relatively well, especially since I'm not a big fan of cloth in the scale in general. I think it looks okay. Head sculpt-wise, of course, V has on his Guy Fawkes mask, which is sculpted really nicely, looks exactly the way you would expect it to. The paint is almost really good, but mine does have a few little splotches here and there that look a bit weird. If you ignore those, though, the rose on the cheeks and the paint for the mustache and beard and everything looks fine. So you might yourself get one that's not minorly flawed, and it would probably be really good in that case, but mine is a bit messy, so that's unfortunate. He also has, like, proper doll kind of hair, which I'm not a big fan of, especially in this scale. It doesn't look awful, but sculpted hair generally looks better on smaller stuff. The hair itself is fairly smooth, and it frizzes up a little bit, but not massively, so it looks tolerable, but it's just not ideal. Articulation-wise, V is pretty decent, but I do have some noticeable complaints. The neck is on a decent little ball peg, which should theoretically allow you to move the head all around in various directions, but any touching of the head whatsoever pretty much makes it come off, and the only thing really keeping it in place at all is the fact that he's got a big collar around it, so you can't really get any actual use out of that joint. You're basically just moving his head around inside the collar. This is honestly the biggest complaint I have with the figure, because not being able to use his head properly is very, very annoying. Shoulders move in and out, forward and back. He's got a little bit of a butterfly joint, but the clothes get in the way a bit. Bicep cut, double jointed elbows. You get hinge and rotation technically in the wrists, but his big flared gloves make them not actually move around all that well. You get ball pegs in the chest and waist that move around a reasonable amount. Hips move forward and back, in and out, rotate around on the joint a little bit, double jointed knees, and he has ball pegs in the ankles, but due to his big boots and stuff, you don't really get any motion out of them, so he's basically just going to have to be straight ankled all the time. So he does have some pretty noticeably limiting factors, but you can get him into a decent number of different poses. Accessories wise, you get a few things. You get 3 sets of hands, 2 open hands, 2 sort of downward angle holding hands, and then 2 asymmetrical, slightly different holding hands. He could do with having some fists, but I think otherwise it's a reasonable number of hands. Then he comes with 6 knives, which can be either held or inserted into his little belt holster things. They're actually made of metal, which I didn't expect, and that's pretty cool, and the detail on them is perfectly fine. You get a little rose, which can be lightly held in his holding hands. You get his hat, which can be fitted down over his head fairly well. It fits fairly tightly on there. You do have to push it down a bit, but it looks okay. And lastly, you get his cape, which is made of a much thinner and kind of cheaper feeling material than the rest of his outfit, But if you do want him to have a cape, you can put that on, or you can choose not to use it. Either way, it works well enough, but it's not great, and it's not wired or anything. It's just a thin piece of black cloth. Overall, I think he's mostly got all the accessories you would really expect V to have, so that's perfectly fine enough. Packaging-wise, you get a pretty standard sort of fully enclosed box. Got the bullet head logo up there at the top, V mask and the big V logo, 112 pocket series, some fire down at the bottom. And on the back you just get some sort of line artwork for V and a little warning label. Overall, this kind of packaging is not good for in-package display, so you're probably going to want to display him out of package. And that about wraps it up for V, so until next time, goodbye! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my content, feel free to subscribe and click that little bell thing. I've been told that that does something or other. You can also give me money to buy toys at patreon.com/vrreviews. See pictures of toys at instagram.com/vrreviews, or see tweets about toys at VenomRaptor09 on Twitter. And I would greatly appreciate you doing any of those things.